This is Sarah Squires bringing you behind the headlines in today's edition of WYO Today Newsroom. Today, I am joined by senior reporter Marit Gookin. We're doing a little bit of a reporter roundtable and kind of pulling back that curtain to kind of show you the behind the scenes on some of the latest headlines. How you doing this morning, Marit?
I'm good. How are you, Sarah?
I'm good. Always love chatting with you about what's in the news. And I kind of wanted to kick it off here with what is going to be a pretty important process coming up. It is, of course, the CWC presidential search. So if you haven't heard, CWC current president, Dr. Brad Tindall, announced earlier this year that he's going to retire his post. It's not going to happen until the end of January 2027. But of course, doing a real thorough search for this kind of leadership position definitely takes some time, and so we're really fortunate that he gave us that heads up to afford us the time to do this right. So kind of the next step in this process is a series of community input meetings that the college is going to host, and so they're going to be sort of all around this part of the state, so to give a lot folks a lot of different opportunities to kind of pop in and share their thoughts about this kind of future of leadership at the college. So what the college is looking for, and they've got some consultants on board to sort of help them with this search, but what they're looking to find with that input is kind of some qualities, some direction that people really want to see out of the next new president of Central Wyoming College. So I often tell folks to, grab their, back of the envelope or a piece of scratch paper. But, if you got your calendar handy, here is the time to jot down some notes here. So I'm going to read off the list of these input meetings for folks to weigh in about the future of CWC. It's a really important kind of moment in time here. And it's our opportunity to sort of share with folks, ahead of this process here, what we're looking for in the next leader. So the first meeting is going to be right here in Wyoming at CWC's Intertribal Education and Community Center. It's on April 15th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. So you can hop in there. That will be quickly followed by the next day on Thursday, April 16th. There's going to be a series of meetings. So first, we're going to be in Thermopolis in the morning at the Hot Springs Learning Center from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Then we're going to hop in our vehicles and head over to the Wind River Reservation for a community input meeting there that night. So Thursday, April 16th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. That is at the Wyoming Indian Schools Chiefs Technology Center. So, and we'll also even pack in one more meeting on that day, Thursday, April 16th. That's going to be at the the CWC Lander Center, room 106, and that'll be from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Then that Friday, April 17th, we'll be out in DuBois at the DuBois Outreach Center from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. And then if you find yourself in Jackson, folks, there'll be a meeting there too on that April 17th, that Friday, from noon to 1 p.m. at the Center for Arts Educational Wing, room 118. So that is absolutely your chance to kind of provide your feedback, what you're looking for in this new leader and kind of the direction that the college is going to take. So really an important series of meetings as we look ahead to Dr. Tindall's retirement. Again, that's coming up in January of 2027. Now, Marit, I know you had an important meeting last night. It was a Lander City Council work session. So, they don't take votes at work sessions, but sometimes that's where kind of the magic happens. It's the sausage making, folks. So what happened last night, Marit?
Yeah, well, there's definitely, I think sausage making is the right term because, every year for the past few years, the city of Lander has been making these periodic updates to its fee schedule. It was something that started while former city treasurer Shari Lara was still there, and they talked about how it has to do with trying to keep up with inflation and things like that. But this year they're taking a much more thorough look at their fees and what they want to update, what changes they're making. So trying to for things like park rentals, trying to move away from the this thing where they're charging per number of people and basing it on, the amount of space folks are using for their rental. And, there are some increases in these fees as well. But I think the really important thing here actually is the fact that, it was expressed a few times last night that the draft that was put in front of the council to consider was just one of a few different options staff have been sort of looking at, and they wanted council feedback so they could kind of know what direction the council wanted to go in, which means, folks, this is a great time for you to weigh in on that process, whether you think these rates are appropriate, whether, you want to see them lower, or if you want to see folks getting charged more to use these spaces. I think it's a great time to take a look at what's been drafted and kind of give your council members some feedback on the front end of that process so they can have some really good community input as they're making those decisions. I think I'm sure you remember, Sarah, a few years back, there were some pretty controversial changes to the fee schedule that a lot of folks felt came sort of suddenly. So I think it's encouraging to see the council taking a methodical approach and giving people a chance to be part of that process early on.
Yeah. A lot of times I think we see, something coming down the pike, and there are these, opportunities to sort of weigh in and help our government leaders like maybe change course a little bit. But when the rubber hits the road and it's like, the 11th hour and they're voting on it and people, weigh in, then a lot of times I think that's just sort of viewed as, well, it's kind of last minute here. We've already done all this work, and maybe your opinion doesn't quite weigh as much as it would have if we can kind of get you into the process earlier on. So absolutely take Marit's advice there. If you've got some questions, concerns about that fee schedule, now's the time to check it out and weigh in. Another event I wanted to get on folks' radars coming up here on May 9th. It's when Lore is going to host an event. It's called Your Kind of Lander at the Lander Community Center from 5:30 to 8 p.m. again on May 9th. This is Lore's kind of way of saying thank you to the community for 6 years and all the partnerships and projects that we're trying to celebrate here that have happened along the way. This event's going to include live music and food. There's going to be games and prizes. They got a photo booth and kids games and activities. And there's even going to be kind of what they're calling a look back film featuring all of the cool things that have been accomplished during Lore's time here in Lander. It is, of course, free. It's open to the public. But if you want to give them a heads up that you're coming, because they do kind of want a head count if they can get it, you can check out the registration link in the Lander Journal. That's going to bring you to all of the information about that fun one. And then one more thing before you go, Marit, I wanted to kind of go over a big announcement that we got last week. That is Rebecca Brothers announced last week that she's going to be moving to Phoenix, Arizona sometime this summer and resigning her seat on the Riverton City Council. Of course, she's also a teacher and a coach at Riverton High School. And last night, the school board included her resignation on the agenda, which was effective May 22nd. Now, we're not quite certain exactly when Councilwoman Brothers is going to say her adieu to the city council position, which will, of course, kind of impact how the city responds to that vacancy. There are several statutes that kind of govern how this kind of vacancy should be treated. And it looks like, the council members are going to have to appoint someone to serve in that position until the voters weigh in November. But it's still pretty early in the process. So I want to encourage folks to keep their dial tuned to 101.7 FM here and keep your eyes open and your ears peeled for more information about that. Of course, we've seen how the vacancy appointment process sort of played out at the Lander City Council last year during the situation where the late Mayor Monty Richardson passed away. And of course, Missy White stepped into the mayor role, and then there was a vacancy for her seat. So definitely want to keep our signals tuned to what's going on with that, because it sounds as though there will be an opportunity for anyone who is interested in filling that seat to kind of throw their name in the hat. So we're going to keep you posted. You, of course, can always read the Riverton Ranger, too, to keep abreast of what's happening at the Riverton City Council. I want to thank you so much, Marit, for joining me. It's always good to catch up and kind of share with folks the stuff that we're working on here in the newsroom.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sarah.